Hi everybody, it's David Fleming here from the Toronto Realty Group, and welcome back to this week's Pick 5. Now this week, I want to take you on a tour of one of my favorite downtown Toronto neighborhoods for condominium buyers, that is. It is the St. Lawrence Market. Now, if you are a young person looking for a place to plant roots, I can think of no better area than the St. Lawrence Market, which is, well, named after, of course, the market itself. But like so many areas in the city of Toronto, we attribute names to landmarks or parks. And the St. Lawrence Market, which of course dates back over a century, is sort of, to me, the central hub and the heart of that area. Everything was built around it in the late 1800s, and believe it or not, there are still many of the original Toronto buildings that still stand today, some of which have been incorporated into condos, one of which I will show you today. And cat out of the bag here, folks, I'm exceptionally biased because I lived there from 2005 through 2018. I lived in 2 different buildings. I owned in 4 different buildings as on the board of directors at one of these condominiums where I owned for investment. I am clearly biased, but there's a reason that I moved down there. So if you're a young person thinking, where should I go? Yeah, you could go to Liberty Village, you could go to King West, you could go to Leslieville. But the St. Lawrence Market, to me, folks, I can't think of a better location. So let's take a look at the map here, guys. And just by way of introduction, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I mentioned the market. Well, here it is down at Jarvis and Front. And if you go back far enough, the lake, I believe, used to be down here. There's a lot of the waterfront that's actually landfill. Google that if you don't believe me. Now, the market is here. The park is here, and along King Street, along Front, along Adelaide, along Richmond, there are a lot of condos. Now here's the rub, folks, and pay very close attention to this. I'm going to show you 5 condominiums that I like, that I've lived in, that I've owned in, that have great value. I do not believe that just because a building is new, it should cost more. So let's take a look at exactly what I'm talking about. See this unit right here? This is at 158 Front Street, time and space. Circle this. 431 square feet, $519,000. Guys, that is $1,204 per square foot. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Condos are expensive to build, plan for, sell, and actually get to the finish line. They are bought by investors who then turn around and resell them. It doesn't mean that it's worth it. Just because something costs a lot doesn't mean that it's worth that. And so I were to say, as an analogy, I bought shares of Google at $150. She bought shares of Google at $275. Does it make them worth a different amount when you go to sell them? No. It's traded, it's a market, and that's the way, to me, real estate should be. So I'm gonna do this. Zoom in here on the map here, right? And we said St. Lawrence Market is down here. The landmarks that are around here, guys, and I could take you on a tour in person or, as we're doing right now on the screen. Basically from Jarvis over is where most of the residential stuff begins. Now the View, that's a building that I'm going to show you today. There's King George Square at 168 King. You go past Frederick, there's 160 Frederick, there's 205 Frederick. Down here there are some older buildings that have exceptional value. If you wanted to look, and we did this in a previous Pick 5, back when condos were 2,500 square feet, you've got buildings like 25 George, you've got 135 George, you've got the one on Frederick, excuse me, I can't remember the exact address. And then as you go over here, you start to see a lot of the infrastructure. You've got down in Front, you've got an LCBO, you've got a Dollarama, you've got a No Frills, there's a Tim Hortons on every corner, there's a Starbucks, there is so much to walk to. You can walk to the subway, you can walk to the park, you can walk to the market. And as I always used to say when I lived down there, you want to go to King West for the nightlife, the restaurant's fine. Take a cab. It doesn't mean that you have to live in that area. So let's take a look at the 5 properties we're going to see here today, folks. They're all kind of clustered, as I said, from Jarvis as far over as Princess. We're going to start here. I'm going to take you into Google Maps because I said I wanted to give you a tour. See this building right here? This is 230 King Street. This is an original bank building, Imperial Bank of Commerce. And if you ever go inside this building, you can see there's a mosaic tile that says IBC. That's the original tile as it was when you walked into this bank in the early 1900s. They built up around this. Now this is called King's Court. This was built in 2005. It's 17 stories. It's 332 units. And of course, I lived there from 2005 to 2011. Now across the street here, another old building that they have built up around. This is 39 Sherbourne. This one's tricky, of course, because there's a parking elevator, which, I mean, sounds like a recipe for disaster to me. But now when I was living down here, I'm going to take you on a tour of Google Maps. So here's our 230 King Street. And then right next door is Betty's, an iconic bar. I had my Subway sandwiches across the street. That guy knew me. I didn't even have to order. I came in there all the time, sadly, but when you're coming home, you know, young real estate agent, 10 o'clock at night, every night, that's what we found. That was our relationship. So let's do this. We're gonna start at 230 King Street. As I mentioned, this is a 2005 built building, and pay close attention to the styles, the sizes, the layouts, the locations. Now, this isn't to say today that this particular unit represents value. It does, relatively speaking, to the newer units. But if you zoom in here, guys, we'll take a look at the listing. This is one on the market for 162 days. Now, $589,900 for 670 square feet. Guys, that's only $895 a square, but of course it's not selling. So we're thinking this is probably worth, if it were to sell, closer to $800 a square. Remember the first unit I showed you was at $1,204 a square? Why? Because it's new. It has new counters, new appliances, new flooring. Guys, you can take any condo and spend 15, 20 grand and change it. It's not $400 per square foot. This is an exceptional location. It's a well-run building. I live there, so it's got that going for it. Now let's take a look at the layout for $589,900. Now this is tenanted, maybe that's part of why it's not selling. I would also say that maybe it's the price. You got 1 bed plus a den, 2 bath. Back when I was selling down here, and I did that a lot, see this 4-piece and 3-piece. This was important. You're not getting a 2-piece powder room that you're not going to use. What you're getting is 2 showers or tubs. When I sold to couples, it was like, guys, you don't have to get ready in the morning, you know, fighting over the bathroom. You've got your second bath here, and that worked for a lot of folks. Now, this has no parking space, $677 a month. That's $1.01 per square foot. When I moved into this building, it was 50 cents a square, but that was a long time ago. So ignore the finishes here, because this is a laminate countertop. It's got this rounded edge. Of course, they always put this one piece of quartz up here. And it's tenanted, so it's not going to show as well as something that's brand new and fully staged. They've put in a really big fridge. I remember when I had to replace my original fridge, I didn't want it to stick out as much as this one did. This is exactly the kitchen that I lived in. Not the same unit, but exactly the same kitchen that I had in terms of the layout. And on the inside, you've got principal living, principal dining. I'll show you the den in a moment here. You've got your little balcony, and it's not huge. I was in the second floor unit. I had a 440 square foot terrace where I had a barbecue. That's of course why I bought the unit. Okay, there you can see your den. You've got 2 desks in there. That's a real den. That's a real work from home situation if you want to. Here you've got your bedroom, and again, you know, tenanted. It's got the original, or the tenant's furniture rather. It's got the original finishes here, this reddish look. This thing I eventually ripped out and replaced. I got rid of this big mirror in my place. But what I'm trying to show you guys, and there's the second bathroom with the shower, not much of a view, not much of an outdoor space. I think they'll do some amenities photos. So across the way, this is 333 Adelaide. This is the Mozo, another great building. Down here, you've got 2 conversions. This is interesting. This was the office building, and then this was the warehouse back when these were actually used, you know, for their original purposes. And now you've got 2 beautiful lofts. This is that kind of industrial, you know, Art Deco style, and this is that brick and beam that everybody likes. That's the Imperial Lofts, 80 and 90 Adelaide. So the building itself has great amenities, rooftop terrace. We had a big Halloween party, I think, back in 2008. My friend and I, there you can see the barbecues. I remember, didn't go over with a lot of the residents. We made an absolute mess. Now this I love. This is the lobby. This door, this is the original door and the original trim from the early 1900s. And on the walls here, they're not in the photos, there are photos of what this was when it was a bank. So you can stand in here and then look at the photo and compare and contrast what it is today and what it was back when it was actually a bank. So $895 a square, as I said, I think the price is certainly workable downwards on this one. So next one we're gonna look at, guys, another fan favorite of mine, 205 Frederick Street. So 205 Frederick, and we'll take a look here. This was built in 2009. This was during that soft loft phase when everyone wanted lofts. So let's create one that's new. It's not really a loft, so we'll call it a soft loft. And what are we really doing? We're making higher ceilings and exposed ductwork and open concept spaces. Excuse my cynicism, but it was like everyone wanted a brick and beam loft, and this is what they created. We'll go back here, guys, and you can see this is what they created to try to satisfy that demand. So I owned a unit here for investment. I was in the board of directors here for a while. This unit is priced at $817 a square foot, so substantially less than the one we just saw, but it has a parking space. This is 769 square feet for $629,000. This unit has been on the market for quite a while. Let me show you. So here you can see, guys, they started at $749. This is in 2023, $724, $599 with an offer date, back up to $714, $699, $649, $639, $639, $629. Guys, this has been on the market now for almost 3 years. Now, that's the rub, of course, right? You're trying to get out ahead of a market that's in decline, and it's proven to be very difficult for a lot of folks to do. But now it's $629, and let's say you pick this thing up for, I don't know, $570, right? Don't quote me on it. The price per square foot's attractive. It's in the 700s. The maintenance fees are $757.81. That's 98 cents a square foot. What I really like about this is the layout. 769 square feet for a one bedroom. Developers are not making those anymore. The first unit I showed you was 431 square feet, virtually unlivable. Here, this is what you would call the den. Fine, tell me it's not a place you can put, a day bed, if you will. These photos are kind of out of order. Now we're back into the lobby. Oh, this brings me back, holy moly. But either way, if we can get back into the darn unit, because here's the hallway. I'm literally getting flashbacks to when I owned this unit here. Okay, so now we're back into the unit, and that was where we left off. This little den is around the corner. You've got a wall of windows. They're floor to ceiling. It's very nice. This is kind of dead space unless you really know how to sort it out, space it out rather, and how to position your furniture. But you've got a seating area here, a seating area here if you want. It's an embarrassment of riches, 769 square feet. Kitchen is off to the side. The rub on this for some people was that they don't want the kitchen, it's dark, right? There's no window into it, and I'll bring you back to that kitchen in a moment. I've sold this floor plan before, both to buyers and on the resale market as a listing agent. The bedroom is inset. This was another big thing that we saw, inset bedroom, right? Was the loft idea is that everything's open concept, but we don't want it too open concept because then it's a studio. So we'll just make these two little walls here, but then there's no window. So we'll do sliding glass doors, and that's what they've done here. Some people don't like it. I see this space as square footage. It's massive. It's got a 9-foot ceiling. They've done a decent job presenting it. I mean, it's decent staging, but putting nice furniture, that's not the only part of staging. Showing how you functionally use the space, dead space here, and this little 2-person couch. No matter where you are in the demographic, this would be great for a young couple, it'd be great for a single guy or gal. There's a lot of space in here, and they haven't even got to the kitchen yet. So see this photo here, guys, this is the rub. These inset bedrooms, people feel like they're just too enclosed. And then, you can only fit like a queen, barely. So there's your dining table off to the side. And then you get into, you can see the kitchen here. You've got the bar stools. It's a really big kitchen. It's nicely upgraded. These are the original finishes. So I think this building has stood the test of time. See what they did there? They stretched this photo to make it look bigger. You can tell by the fridge, because it's probably a standard fridge size. But yeah, the building stood the test of time. It's got decent amenities. Here you can see the gym. That's on the main floor. Rooftop terrace. Oh, that's the party room. Remember, that was where, oh my God, this is where we used to have meetings when I was on the board of directors back in the day. And then you've got the rooftop terrace. So this is a pretty nice spot, I've got to say. Remember the green roofs for the environmentalists among you, when the development industry just absolutely bamboozled everyone. It's going to be LEED certified. It's going to be green friendly. Great, you have moss on the roof. Congratulations. While I was on the board, I actually got shouted down because, see this barbecue here? It was really greasy and dirty because people are slobs, sorry to say. The president of the board demanded that we put a chain around it with a lock, and then people had to sign it out. And I was like, why in the world would we do that? Anyways, that vote went 4-1 against me, and then they put a chain around it with a lock on it, and you had to sign out the key if you wanted to use the barbecue. So 205 Frederick, love the building, love the square footage of this unit. The price, it's come down $120,000 since they first listed. It's going to come down even more. Great building, great layout, great value. And the next one I'm going to show you here, folks, is 112 George, my old stomping grounds. So this is 112 George here. You can see this building. And no, this was made to look like it was part of an original bank or something like that, to fit in with the area. This is what I love about this area. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but all these old buildings from the early 1900s, some of them late 1800s. I actually did a tour. There was a gentleman named Dave LeBlanc, the Architourist, I think was his thing. And I did a column with him, I think it was the Globe and Mail, where we met, and this is going back to 2009 or something. And I walked him through the area, he interviewed me, and we looked at all the original buildings. He wrote a really nice column about it. I think he still writes that column, but there's just so much history in the St. Lawrence market area. There you can see the one tower of 112 George. Here's the other tower, that's 116 George. This is 105 George. And this building here, this was the original Upper Canada College. This was the first male house in Upper Canada. Let's take a look at that. I want to show this to you. post house, I believe. See this right here? Yeah, isn't that awesome? So did I say Upper Canada? It's De La Salle. De La Salle, look, 1871. Guys, come on, if you go to any world-class city, you're gonna find original character and charm and heritage and history, and that is what the St. Lawrence market has. So this unit here, 112 George Unit 710, we're $635,000, we're 710 square feet, and that is, wait for it, $894 a square foot. Now, far be it for me to say, it's been on the market for 109 days. Like everything else, this price is going to come down too. This has a parking space, but for 710 square feet, when at the market peak, this would be over 700,000. My God, I remember getting 15 offers on listings in this building and selling it for over $800,000 for one bedroom. This is a one bed plus den, two bath. Notice here, two piece. So it's not like the unit at 230 King where we had the second shower. This has that two piece. What I find really funny is, see this photo? The feature photo is not even of the right building. Yeah, the photo of this listing that's been up for 109 days, this listing, they don't even have a photo of the gosh darn building. That's George Brown College. Now maybe they did that by design. That wouldn't make any sense, so it's gotta be a mistake. So now the unit itself, again, kind of reminds me of where we just saw at 205 Frederick. This has 10-foot ceilings, which I have always liked. This has a better outdoor space, slightly better view, but see this wraparound? This L shape? This is just like what we saw at Frederick. I lived in this building. These are original floors. This is all original. My gosh, I feel like I've been in this a million times. So I lived in this building from 2011 through 2018. Kitchen at the front, fine, original finishes. Entry-level condo buyers, don't pay for the new. Don't pay $1,200 a square foot. This is at $894 a square. You're probably gonna get this closer to $800 a square. High ceilings, open concept spaces. I've always liked this layout. It's just that little L shape, that little wraparound. You really got to do something with that. See this here? So it's narrower than the one at Resin. They've turned it into all they can really do, which is a home office. But then that outdoor space is a bit more functional, and you've got open air out here, so you might actually use that. So again, with an inset bedroom, fine, we're used to seeing that. This one has direct access to the bathroom, though. The one at Resin didn't. There, now they've taken a photo with the door open. So you've got a double closet. It's a little bit wider. It's a little bit more inviting, let's say, than the one that we saw at Resin. And now we're just getting into photos of laundry and such. Okay, so let's see, outdoor space. So we're staring across the street at Post House. That's 105 George. This here, as I mentioned, that is George Brown College. We saw the first photo in this listing was of that. And in the background here, you can see where we just were at 205 Frederick. Now see these buildings over here? This is the new stuff. This building right here, I don't even want to know what people think they're going to sell for. 1,300, 1,400 square foot. It was probably, 1,600, 1,700 in pre-construction. Just really didn't make any sense to me. Now, I will say this about this listing, guys. What are we looking at? Why are we looking at this? Why do we have 6 photos of the hallway? What are we doing? Okay, well, I mean, listen, I'm kind of complimenting them and also making fun at the same time. It's amazing here. There are so many units, and what drives me nuts about this building as a real estate agent is you would think 601 is the same layout as 701, is the same layout as 801. No, there's a million units. It's amazing. Pizza guys, Uber delivery guys, it's a freaking nightmare. But what they did here was madness. They put all these photos in the listing, and I feel like this is their trail of breadcrumbs to try to show you how to get from the elevator to the unit. Just something that I thought was funny. There you go. And then we got another one here. So decent gym. I worked out in here a lot. As the guy that was like big bodybuilder back in, university, and eventually, you're like, I'll never work out in like a condo gym, and then I'm, crushing the treadmill every Sunday. Like, yeah, eventually I decided to slum it and work out there. Really big building, great big lobbies, connects 112 George to 116 George. Here's the party room. A few parties in there. I think I had my daughter's first birthday in there. Did not go in that weird sauna. They have a huge rooftop terrace. And there you go, back to the first photo, which is not of the actual building that we're selling. Okay, guys, getting a little long in the tooth here, so let's move along to 168 King Street. Now, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. It's not so funny if you're my sister-in-law. When my sister-in-law and my brother decided to move out of the family home, long story short, but like the parents were gone and we were like living in the childhood home together, she couldn't handle it. She convinced my brother we're gonna go downtown and buy a condo. They bought a condo at 168 King Street. And a week later, I bought a condo at 230 King Street. She lost her mind. She was like, your brother is following us. I was like, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. But it was actually cool because we'd be sitting in his living room, you know, having a drink. We're like, oh, we're out of wine. And I would literally just walk a block to my place and grab something. So point is, guys, where you move in the downtown core is going to shape you in those years of your life. I had friends that lived in this area. We used to do like the Tuesday night wings at Gabby's. We'd go out on Thursday night and we'd watch football together. I don't do any of that now because I'm a middle-aged dad. But man, was it awesome living down in this area with all my buddies back in the day. So 168 King is known as King George Square. This building was built in 2000. It's 15 stories and 156 units. And what it was back in the day, this was probably the most popular building in the area. It was the crown jewel, I used to say. Now here's where this wall, actually, this is where Dave LeBlanc, the architecturist, took a photo of me leaning up against it. I'm gonna find that article. I remember that was from like 2008, 2009. That story really didn't serve any purpose. So see this right here? This was the Starbucks. They had a fire. This is an original 1800s building. They can't tear it down because it's heritage, but it's boarded up right now. It's a shame. See this building here? This is currently 187 King. Oh, I know that off by heart. It's weird. It's a Royal LePage office, but this building too was incorporated in the design for a much taller tower. The one thing I will say about the city of Toronto, give them credit, they're preserving some of this history. And there's Gabby's, as you can see. We used to go there all the time. So the building here, and a lot of really cool storefronts here that I like. This building here is 168 George. And when I say it's the crown jewel of the area, I'm gonna zoom in here, guys. This was it back in the early 2000s. The black gate, the double doors that open, 168. This was where it's at. Now it's slightly dated. The demographic is a bit older, which was great because it's exceptionally well run. But I remember my brother telling me a story going back to like 05, 06. He went to the AGM and he's like a young guy and he asks a question and there's 5 old people who are like, you know, the board of directors. He asks a question and they just go, right, anyways, and just move on and completely ignore. And like that's the knock on a lot of condo buildings is, hey, you got to understand the demographic. What I will say is I have put in this building 2 downsizers, including a lady who is so lovely, who said to me, and I'm not going to do the accent, but she was like, David, put me in a building where you would only put your mother. I just did the accent. I couldn't do the impression without it. Point is, when she came to me hat in hand and said, I want you to put me in a building where you would feel comfortable putting your mother, I handpicked 168 King Street East for her. Now this is $699,900. It's 705 square feet. It's priced at $993 a square. It's really expensive. The rub here, guys, is when you're facing north, you're looking out over what's below the dumpsters where the trucks are, and you're peering over, I showed you that historical building when I was showing you 112 George. That's a pretty building from the front, but when you're standing up over top of it, there's really not much of a view. So 614, let's take a look at the photos, and you can see here, lower ceiling than the newer stuff, of course, right? We've got slightly older finishes, slightly smaller spaces. At 710 square feet, it's not bad, but the other one was 769. You're getting a little more bang for your buck. You got these double doors, which you probably wouldn't get in a newer layout where everything's open concept. 2 windows instead of a wall of windows, so the newer buildings would just have that wall of windows. I believe they've redone the kitchen in this. Yes, they have. The knock on this layout, and I've seen this so many times, is that you walk down a hall, which is kind of wasted square footage. You've got your inset kitchen, and then you've got your bedroom sort of behind the living dining. So with those 2 sliding doors, and I mentioned with the loft style, those inset bedrooms, which were all the rage, this was built in 2000. So this was interesting because they decided even before we saw that fad take over to put the bedroom in the middle of the unit and not have a window right next to it. So this here definitely upgraded, and you can see this is the original door color. It's just funny. This color screams the year 2000. And then I believe, and that's a nice upgrade there, but I believe their little den, okay, so here you've got somebody right over top of you, so you don't have open air. This is the building that I mentioned, right? We were standing out here, I was showing you 112 George. You've got this beautiful building from the front, but when you're on the 6th floor, you're looking out over it and you just see this roof and then the garbage collection and the trucks pulling through in the alleyway. So yeah, you get the little egg chair. My wife wanted one of those when we were 112 George. I nixed that. It was like $2,000 or something. This is the view that I meant. So I've always had trouble north-facing units. I've never sold one. And back when I was really active in this area, people get excited. We go look at 168 King when it was all the rage. I think I've used that about 15 times now. The north-facing units just didn't do well. So here you can see original. This is definitely original tile. And we need to get down to that den. Where is that den? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the den has access to the bedroom, but it's behind the kitchen. So it's a bit of a funny floor plan. You know, the gym in this building, it's all right, you know, for a 25-year-old gym. Another funny story, my brother had a unit on the 4th floor. The gym was on the 4th floor. Every morning, his wife would use the bathroom and then he would go to the gym bathroom to shower. It's been 20 years, so I think I can tell that story, but I'm full of stories today, guys. But listen, I've lived in these units. I've lived in this area and I'm smiling, which is, you know, rare, I guess. But where you move as a young person, what area you live in, which of your friends you see, this shapes the rest of your life. And I've got so many amazing stories from living down in the St. Lawrence market area, and I'm happy to share them. And the last unit we're gonna look at, 138 Princess. Let's go to the map. You can see it here. It's on a side street. I remember really going down memory lane. I used to park here when I would do showings. And I don't believe in God, but clearly he told me not to because someone smashed my window and stole my laptop out of the back seat of my car. Never parked there again. So yeah, I don't know what that story had to do with anything, but it's just so much experience down this area. I was down there for, as I said, 2005 to 2018, 13 years, lived in 2 buildings, owned in 4. This is a building I always wanted to live in with a nice big terrace, west facing. Remember that because I'm going to come back to west facing in a moment. So originally they tried to get an address 275 King. And I remember this clearly because the King Street brand, well, King plays a little bit better. Now, Princess is a beautiful name, but they wanted 275 King. They put the door onto Princess Street for whatever reason, and that's how 138 Princess came to be known. Now, this is the East Lofts. Now, this unit, wild pricing. Are you ready for this? $750,000 for 964 square feet. Guys, this is $778 a square, but it's not selling. And I'm going to show you why. Now, keep in mind, we came into this with me saying, I used to live down here back in the day. I'm going to show you some older buildings. There's been a lot of development. Guys, the developments in the area absolutely killed this building. And I'm going to show you multiple photos that explain why after showing you what I think is an awesome unit, incredible value, and see this soft loft style. So this is what I meant when developers kind of laugh. They're like, oh, people like soft lofts? Great. We'll save on drywall and ceilings. It's all concrete. The thing about the kitchens in here, I remember, I had a client with a model. This is 14. I think we had 514. There's nowhere to put anything in the kitchens. The kitchens are so small. You have this and this. This is your garbage. This is your cutlery. Where do you put pots and pans? So I remember he did this wicked built-in. And these guys have done a great job marketing this. They've done as much as they can. They've got this nice big sliding door that's aftermarket. They have their Tom Ford art book out. Really, really nice. But the problem with this unit, guys, is what's been built around it. So see what I said, guys? There's no cabinet space. You have this. This is the exhaust going up. All you have to put stuff is here and here. There's absolutely no room. That's it. Cutlery, garbage, exhaust. Where are you putting plates? And I remember my client, I rented that place for them, 514 I think it was, and they're like, we put our plates under our sink. Like, it was bizarre. So really great bedroom size. You got some decent natural light coming through. You have the semi-ensuite. But what's the rub here, you're asking, as we continue to go through these photos? Done a great job with the closets. Maybe that's where they put their plates. And then where do you put your food? So I think my guys built a huge pantry, and this is the den at the front. They actually stored a lot of their stuff in here. So guys, check this out. This looks nice, big open, really big den, but then when you turn this way, you can see it's just a big foyer. And that was kind of the awkwardness. They rushed this building out, or you know, it was built at a time when people were crushing pre-construction investments. And so, yeah, you don't really think much of the floor plan. And there's the bathroom, and they're gonna come back to more den photos. There's a chair with the old bay blanket. See what I mean? Like, what are you really using this for? It's like a giant foyer. Walk in, here's my shoes. What am I doing with this space? So here we go, guys. See this building here? See this building here? See this building here? You're completely walled in. And it's such a shame. And the clients that I had that had the big terrace, I think it was 514, they sold years ago. But this is time and space. That unit I showed you at the beginning at 158 front. This building here, I think is a Menkes development. This was an old gas station. I used to go here and fill up all the time. There's a Tim Hortons at the base of the building. But west facing, you used to stare here at the CN Tower. You had west light coming in. You had the night skyline. And what happens on a long enough time horizon is development takes over, and these units are getting crushed. See this? You can't see anything. It's just a wall of units. And it's such a shame because this thing is such an awesome building, and I feel for these guys. This thing's a great deal, $778 a square, but to be honest, I don't know what they're gonna sell it for. So that's it for me, guys. That one was long, but it contained a lot of stories about my formative years. Ask anybody that was passionate about where they lived. Where was the first place that you lived in the city of downtown Toronto? And St. Lawrence Market, King West, Distillery, Liberty Village, whatever it is, they're gonna tell you that they loved it and the reasons why. I honestly can't think of anything that I didn't like about this area. I can say there's a lot of riffraff in the downtown core. There's riffraff everywhere. And I used to joke there's an invisible fence at Richmond Street. They don't want to come south because they don't want anything to do with us. And we just don't go north of Richmond up and towards Moss Park. But other than that, it's really the only thing I can think of. The infrastructure is amazing. You can walk to multiple grocery stores. The St. Lawrence Market's phenomenal. You can walk to work. From 230 King, the TTC is literally at your door. So instead of standing in the little, bus shelter, people who lived in the building would stand in that vestibule that I mentioned with the IBC logo and the mosaic on the floor there in a beautiful vintage Toronto building dating back 125 years. So much history, so much character in the St. Lawrence Market area. Even if you're not looking to move into the area, you should go for brunch. Go to the George Street Diner. It's a landmark. Go down to Birdsey Park in the summer. I take my kids there now, which is kind of funny because that's where me and my wife met. It's where we grew up together. And now we take our kids to the dog fountain, which is a really cool thing. The Hockey Hall of Fame is a block away. I got to stop talking because, as you can tell, I will never stop touting what the benefits of the St. Lawrence Market area. So guys, that is it for me for this week. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want Pick 5 emailed to you directly, go ahead to Toronto Realty blog, sign up, and you'll get an email every single week when we launch a new episode. Have a fantastic weekend, folks. We'll see you here next time on Pick 5. Bye for now.